Hey, what's up, Grinders? This is Dan Gaspar, also known as Mr. Tuttle05. I am here with John, Squirrelpatrol, and also Drizzy26. We're here trying out a new show, FanDuel Friday Strategy Show. So we're going to be doing this kind of up by the seat of our pants. So if you have any suggestions on what you would like to hear on the show moving forward, we will be doing this every Friday. Feel free to add us on Twitter, drop comments in the comment section, anything you want to do to reach out to us and let us know what you want to hear on the show. For today, we're just going to kind of go position by position, talk a little bit cash game strategy, as well as GPP options, things like that nature. But first off, John, how are you doing today, man?
Good, yeah. I'm excited. We're doing a FanDuel show. I've won 2 of their live finals, so I'm a big fan of the site. And it should be fun.
Yeah, you and Dre both absolutely crushed FanDuel. So I'm kind of just here to learn myself. Dre, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited too because FanDuel is like the main site I've always played on. It's the site that I first got introduced to when playing DFS, and hopefully able to give people some things in the breakdown of the slate and just in general the site to get better at it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you guys remember, I was thinking about this the other day when thinking about FanDuel. FanDuel is where I got my start as well. And then I was thinking just a couple seasons ago, do you guys remember when for NBA they dropped the lowest score?
Yeah.
Remember that season?
I was just thinking about that today. Actually, I really liked that. I thought it was a creative solution to the problem that, and make it part of the game that sometimes guys get scratched rather than have late swap.
Yeah, it was a fun little wrinkle from the traditional DFS that we play now. And they do have different game types like that on FanDuel as well that you can check out. If you're in the more traditional DFS, which we'll be more talking about today with the salary cap and things like that, they have plenty of contests you can enter. You can go over to, again, FanDuel.com. The big contest today, I believe, is the 300K Friday NBA layup. That's $9 to first place, or $9 to enter, I should say, not to first place. That would be kind of sad. 50K to first. So feel free to go over to FanDuel and enter that. But with that said, one thing I wanted to do before we get to the positions, I wanted to talk a little injury. It's kind of interesting because Friday slate's typically bigger. It's only a 7-game slate, and as such, we actually don't have a whole lot of pending injury news still. But if you head over to Rotogrinders.com, you can go over to the situation room, and there we can look at guys with questionable tags, things like that nature. And really the most impactful Q tags that we have today come in 2 spots. We have it in New York, where Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson are technically questionable. There were some beat reports earlier that were saying, sounds like they're probably going to be more doubtful than not. But we still do have them in our projections at Rotogrinders. But we'll certainly update that as we get confirmation that those players are out. And then the other spot, Miami has a handful of players listed as questionable. Jimmy Butler's kind of been playing through a Q tag. Tyler Herro missed last game. So we'll see. I think he's probably the one that we're more worried about than Jimmy Butler missing, although Butler had that kind of scuffle on the sidelines last game, interestingly enough. And then I guess if you're looking over here, you'll see Karl Anthony Towns is listed. But he's played the last 2 or 3 games with the exact same injury, and he's had a Q tag each game, so I fully expect him to suit up. But interestingly, none of those positions really matter, or none of those players really matter for the point guard position, which is where we're going to start here today. Again, we'll talk, I guess, a little bit both cash game as well as tournament, and then any lineup construction things you have for the slate as well, if you want to throw them in. John, we'll start with you in terms of, let's start, just your overall thoughts at the position today.
So there's a lot of good options at point guard. There's some value options, some guys with a probably pretty wide range of possible outcomes. and high priced guys. So I think the guys that are going to probably be the most popular are Luka and Donovan Mitchell. But I think I like Donovan Mitchell a lot. I mean, going up against Charlotte, Luka is always a good spend up if you have the money. Chris Dunn, I think, is going to be popular. He's got a pretty wide range of outcomes. Like, I just looked at the app earlier, and there was a banner, right, that said like Chris Dunn has been added to the player pool, because I think that he just signed a second 10-day contract or another 10-day contract. But I mean, he started last game, so yeah, he's very much in play to be starting for Portland, and that's the highest total game of the night. I mean, it should be kind of a messy game. Portland and Houston. So he played 26 minutes last time in a start. And then I kind of like Kevin Porter as well, but he's also small forward eligible. So I probably prefer more at small forward position.
Yeah, and I'm sorted here. You can see my screen share. I'm sorted by projected ownership. And Kevin Porter Jr. is expected to be heavily owned. We have him the third highest at the position. But I do think, as you mentioned, some of that's because he has small forward eligibility, which is typically kind of a weaker position. So that's probably a good note in general, that if you're playing KPJ, you're probably playing him at small forward, just because you're not giving up nearly as much to play him in your lineup at point guard. Dre, I want to go to you. John kind of mentioned, and it almost came across as an unexcited tone when talking about Chris Dunn. What are your thoughts on Chris Dunn for tournaments? Like, he is going to, I think, be one of the higher owned low end options here, or low priced options. Are you all about eating that chalk, or are you going to kind of look elsewhere?
Well, if he's only playing for 25 minutes, I kind of like him, especially for the price point. Because we know Houston does turn the ball over a lot, and they do play at a tempo pace. So and Chris Dunn does play defense. That's what he was known for before he had the injuries and was healthy, was playing defense, creating a lot of turnovers and pushing the ball up the court and getting some assists and some rebounds and a little bit of scoring. So he's someone I would have pretty much moderate interest in. Like, I'll probably be a little bit over the field like we have right now, coming at like 23-24%. So I would me personally, I'll probably be at like around 30-35% of him. Just because I like the price point and the upside that it presents in just this matchup alone. If it was like any other matchup, I wouldn't be that high on him. But this matchup in particular, to me, it's just a great spot for him to get as much as you can of him, especially with him now trying to prove himself and get a spot in the NBA.
Yeah, good points. Do you have anything here that's kind of sneaky, maybe somebody under 10% owned that you're eyeing up, or some guy that you think will just be a little bit overlooked on this slate?
Yeah, like that Miami news that you mentioned before is kind of very important, because I like Kyle Lowry today at 6.1K. He's very, very, very cheap for his production, and I think in this matchup against New York, who doesn't guard the point guard position very well at all, he's someone that I would want to have a lot of exposure to. And to me, I might even want to play him even with Jimmy Butler being in, because I think he can still have a game where he get 40 to 45 fantasy points, if not more, at that price. So he's someone I love a lot. I do also like Jordan Clarkson. I don't know. I understand his price is 6.6K, but without Bojan Bogdanovic, I think that he can be a sneaky option in a match against Charlotte, who is in a Temple team as well. And if he's going to be like 2% owned, I would love taking a little bit and some shares of him.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. And I know from Napster Man and Fat Albert, Alan Lem, are both very narrative-driven guys, or they at the very least like to goof around about it. Mm-hmm. Kyle Lowry's birthday is today, so there you go. For you Kyle Lowry fans out there, 6,100. Just sorting by some of the pricing on FanDuel, you see that there's one guy that stood out to me. I don't even know if I like him that much as a play, but D'Angelo Russell's 5,900. Where have things gotten where he's 5,900? And then John, I wanted to run one guy by you, and I've been consistent. I looked up, I brought up FanDuel, looked at some of the game logs. I was surprised at how consistent he's been. Lamelo Ball. Do you have any takes on Lamelo Ball for me?
So, I mean, I think he could be a good run back with Donovan Mitchell. He's just a little bit like too pricey for me. And like consistent is a double-edged sword, right? Because he's not putting up huge scores, but he's not also, he's not killing your lineups either. I kind of like Terry Rozier if I'm going to run it back with anybody from the Charlotte side, because he's substantially cheaper and he's also a little bit more volatile. So if like that layup tournament, right? If you're trying to beat 39,000 people, you might need a little bit of an outlier score. I actually have one guy that I haven't mentioned. Nobody's mentioned him yet. It's Trae Young. He's an interesting pivot off of Luka, because I think Luka's going to be pretty popular, but he just played Minnesota last game. You could see like Patrick Beverley was really getting in his head, kind of bothering him, and he didn't have a very good game. Now maybe that means Luka goes absolutely berserk this game, but Trae Young is maybe a pivot. You could save some money off of Luka, put in Young. He's, I think, 3 out of his last 6 games, he's had under 40 points, but the other 3, he's had over 57. So that's the kind of volatility I'm looking for in tournaments. He's playing Golden State, at home. So it should be, kind of a fast-paced game. I think Trae Young's worth a look there.
Yeah, I like that too. I think that covers most of the point guard position. I will say, so we've talked about Donovan Mitchell, and like I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. But Dre mentioned Jordan Clarkson offhand. Mike Conley's super cheap. Conley hasn't shown like any sort of upside. I think he showed up upside one game against the Bucks a few weeks back and was kind of decent there. Are any of you or either of you interested in finding ways to pivot or get leverage off Mitchell, or is Mitchell just so much better of a play than the other two that you're kind of just locking him in?
I'm on the way kind of just locking him in, because he has to be the main focal point of this offense. He has to put up the numbers for them to win, and I think they're still in a tight race in the Western Conference for seeding and position. So I think he has to play as many minutes as he can and get as many wins as he can.
Yeah, that's kind of my sense too. And Conley, I wish we could do the Conley thing, but it's just again, you question the upside, which John has mentioned numerous times. You're kind of playing for a wide range of outcomes here. The 30 FanDuel point game's probably not quite getting it done, even though he's cheap. Let's move over to shooting guard then. So we've talked about a lot of these guys have dual eligibility. So if we don't want to spend too much time here, I'm not too worried about it. We mentioned Luka, we mentioned Donovan Mitchell. Terry Rozier is kind of the potential bring back with Donovan Mitchell. Is there anybody else that's popping up here for you, John, at shooting guard that we haven't talked about yet at point guard?
There's almost nobody I'm interested in at shooting guard that's not point guard, not point guard eligible. Actually, one guy I didn't mention was Ish Smith. I think he's going to be a little bit more popular than I would like, but he's 3,800. He's been seeing more minutes. Like the Wizards have put a postage stamp on their season and they are mailing it in. So I think Ish Smith could continue to see more minutes, and he's a guy they just acquired at the trade deadline. I think they're going to give him some like veterans preference, just go out and try to get his numbers and look good towards the end of the season as they play for nothing. So at 3,800, like if he can put up mid-20s points, I think that gets you a lot of other expensive guys in your lineup. So I think he's worth a look. And he's maybe somebody you'd play at point guard or shooting guard. Maybe Jimmy Butler is probably the one guy that's not point guard eligible that I would be interested in, but he's questionable. So we have to see if he's playing, and he hasn't been performing that well lately. And then, he just had that sideline blow up. So who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I've frustratingly played Jimmy Butler, I think both times that he's left the game with an injury this season. And he, even when he has been active and playing the full game, he's kind of lacked some of that upside, but he was the guy that jumped out at me too. Dre, how about you? Is there anybody that we haven't talked about at point guard that you like at the shooting guard position?
Not really. Like I'm gonna have a little bit of Anthony Edwards. So I think he's a good tournament play because he has the upside to go off on any game, in my opinion, any slate. It's just a matter of the usage and how the game flows. And Jordan Poole, I know his price is going up, but he's been playing about that price point, not a little bit higher. So I think he's going to play a lot of minutes, like around 40 minutes a night. And I think he's a perfect run back to go with Trae Young in that game, because that game should be competitive and go down to the wire.
Yeah, and looking at this now too, Klay Thompson, you mentioned Jordan Poole, Clay's 6,600. Got up to 38 minutes, I think, a couple of games ago. So he's another guy that, like, not overly exciting, but if you're trying to look and do something a little bit different. One more situation I'll mention, the Clippers. So they kind of came out and said that they're monitoring Reggie Jackson's minutes, Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum, some of their veterans' minutes, which, I mean, wasn't that huge of a deal because it's like we're probably not playing most of those guys anyways. But I think people might just end the analysis there, when in reality there's potential here for, hey, maybe some of these fringe guys might pick up a few more minutes. So they're not guys that I love. I wish Terrence Mann wasn't 7K. I don't know if I can invest in a 7K Terrence Mann. If his price point comes down before the season ends, then maybe we'll start looking at him. But even maybe like a Luke Kennard off the bench, Amir Coffey, maybe they run into like mid 30s minutes run and end up being not that bad in terms of point per dollar plays. Neither are very exciting in terms of ceiling, but maybe it's just like a raw lineup construction thing where it ends up you need to save some money at the position. So that's my only intake or input there at shooting guard. Let's move to small forward. We mentioned here Kevin Porter Jr. is probably going to be fairly popular here, just because he's a guy that is in a great matchup. Houston-Portland is going to be a heavily owned game. He's cheap. He's 5,900. So I think he'll be heavily owned. I'll list off the other high projected owned guys, and then you guys get back to me and let me know not only your takes on those guys. Do you think they're good plays, good fades at that ownership, or do you have somebody you would like to pivot to? So we got KPJ projected as the highest owned guy at small forward. Then is Dorian Finney-Smith, Jimmy Butler, Jayshawn Tate, Anthony Edwards, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Corey Kispert, James Harden. Honestly, a pretty uninspiring list, John. Do you have any takes on some of these guys, or do you have somebody else you would just rather talk about?
So, like I said, I think Jimmy Butler is in play if he's playing. But I think you got to be prepared. He's really been underperforming lately. One guy I'm a little interested in is maybe RJ Barrett. If Julius Randle is out, I think he's definitely going to be in play, and I think he's going to shoot up the ownership projections if Randle's out. I mean, even if Randle is in, like, Barrett is going to play probably 40 minutes regardless. I mean, that's just how much he's been playing. So he could always put up like a score of 50. I think he's got a few 50-point FanDuel games this month already with Randle playing. So, or at least two, I think. So RJ Barrett's a guy that I would have some interest in, if we're looking at guys, that are currently projected with single digit ownership.
Yeah, Barrett too is like a cash. He's one of my favorite cash game plays because of what you mentioned. He's going to be on the court. There's always a chance that he's going to salvage his game. So he like, I think he actually did start out slow last game and kind of ended up getting there towards the end. It's just because, minutes equal fantasy points typically, unless you're, certain players. Dre, for you, is there anybody that stands out at this position, is potentially too low owned?
Well, I was going to mention RJ Barrett. I love that play today. I think it's a fantastic play. I would play him. Yeah, I think Randall's going to be out tonight, so I think he's definitely firmly in play. And he had a blow-up game against Miami last time because Miami actually has not been playing that great of defense lately. So that's someone I would take to high consideration and play a lot of. I also wanted to give out a strategy real quick. Since there are a lot of point guards and shooting guards that we do kind of like that pretty much play the same position, I think moving Kevin Porter and making him on, like, if you're doing multiple position, multiple lineups, moving Kevin Porter strictly to small forwards, and small forwards is pretty weak. I think that's a great strategy today. So that way you can get him in and get a couple other guards in play as well. So that's the strategy I would use today. When it comes to a guy like that today. But another guy that I do kind of like, with John Collins being out, is getting to a guy like Danielle Galinari, going against Golden State. I know, they can match it with him with Kuminga, but Gallo's a perfect tournament play. At 4.8K, he can have the upside to give you 35, maybe even 40 fantasy points. And they're going to need him to do pretty much pick and pop, pick and roll, and to put some points up to keep this game close and to beat Golden State today. So he's someone I have a good amount of interest in. Pretty much that would be it. I don't mind Tobias Harris. His price is coming up a little bit. I still think it's a little bit low than what it should be. And he's been playing well the last couple games. So he's someone I think is a great tournament play as well.
Yeah, I like that. And I mean, not to talk too much about the KPJ point about just kind of locking him in at point guard, or I mean, it's at small forward. Don't listen to the point guard. Definitely do small forward, and it's because when I listed off the highest owned players at the position, like there's not a whole lot here. So again, just to kind of hammer that one home. Let's move though then to the power forward position. Things are a little bit more exciting here. Actually a lot more exciting. We're looking at, Kristaps has looked a lot better with Kyle Kuzma out. This is a back-to-back, though. I believe they're the only team on Friday night that's planning a back-to-back. There has been no reports that Kristaps is going to sit, but his minutes could certainly be monitored a little bit more closely on a back-to-back. So when you hear something like that, or something like that, and he's coming in, he's 8,500 on FanDuel. He's projected to be the second highest owned player at the position. What's your stance on Porzingis tonight, John?
I'll probably be about equal to field. Like if I'm doing 150 lineups, I don't necessarily have a strong take just because his minutes have been a little bit all over the place. His price is up. It's a good matchup with Detroit, but if he's playing 32 minutes or more, then I'm interested. Even at 8,500. But it's also I don't know if the Wizards are going to want to risk risk a knee injury or something, right? By playing him heavy minutes on a back-to-back.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. So like a player like that, who we obviously different teams, so we don't necessarily know how they're going to. We can't just say what Dallas did with him in terms of back-to-backs is going to carry forward with Washington. So your stance is kind of just match the field and win elsewhere, more or less?
I think so. I think that game doesn't have a huge a outlier point total. So at 8,500 at the point guard position, like you've got Bam, you've got Christian Wood, you could drop to. So it's a tough ask, all the way up to 8,500 for Porzingis.
Yep. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Dre, I want to get your take on the position as a whole, but also the Portland guys, because these Portland guys are showing is potentially high owned. We're talking Drew Eubanks. We're talking Trendon Watford. Are you interested? I know the matchup's awesome. Houston has been absolutely atrocious against opposing big men. What's your take on Portland and then the position as a whole?
Yeah, I love both those guys today. Probably will go trend more towards Trendon Watford because he's going to play regardless whether it's a blowout or not. So I would go more towards him, and I think he has a little bit more upside than Drew Eubanks. I would not play them two together though. I'll make a rule if you're using RG and their projections, make a rule where they're separate because I don't think they correlate well together when they're in the same lineup. So yeah, I don't mind them at all. I do also like even on the opposite side, Jason Tate. I don't know if you really mentioned him small forward a lot, but I think he's an interesting play today too. At 4,200, that's too cheap when he has a little bit more of an upside for his price. I think he's probably worth. I think it's like a 5K player, maybe a little bit more. And at 42, he can spark an upside game against Portland in their front court and do something well. I also do kind of like Dwight Powell, 4.4K. He's not getting that much ownership. He just had a monster blow game against Minnesota. 43 fantasy points. We weren't expecting it. I don't know. We don't want to go off that. We want to go off statistics. But Karl-Anthony Towns, he's been playing a little bit better defense lately, yes, but his defense is still not the greatest. So to someone I don't mind getting to as well. Getting to a decent amount of it in the field, maybe at the field, not a little bit over the 10% we have. Jarrett Vanderbilt on the opposite side is someone I like too, just to attack that front court, get the rebounds and the blocks upside. This position for me probably would be all about more so spending down unless I'm going to a guy like Porzingis or even a great tournament play who I think should be higher on than what he is Bam Adebayo. Other than that, that's not many power forwards I'm interested in.
Yeah, I like the Bam call there at the end too. I think so. Oftentimes, with injury news, we kind of just focus on the team that's going to be absent players. So Mitchell Robinson, obviously an awesome defender, but if he's out, we're looking. Last game I believe it was 26 minutes of Jericho Sims, who's a little raw. So I like that Bam call. And he, again, would benefit if Mitchell Robinson is unable to go. Also wanted to touch on something you mentioned, Dre, with Jayshawn Tate. And we've talked about it a few times already, and just searching for upside in tournaments. He's kind of the guy that is like you look in the dictionary of upside, the DFS dictionary, and he's kind of there. He's going to have so many duds, and he has a lot of duds this season. But that's kind of what we're chasing. We're not chasing the duds, but we're chasing he's a guy that actually can get you 40 FanDuel points at 4,200. Whereas, and this is probably I'm gonna end up regretting this, but like as opposed to Royce O'Neal or like Kevin Looney, who are the same price tag, like those guys, you're ecstatic if they get you in the mid 20s. And Jayshawn Tate can just blow that away if things are going his way. The minutes have not been there for him. But, even under 30 minutes, I still think he can get like a 40 FanDuel point game. And then his teammate, too, Christian Wood. I don't know if either of you saw, like, Christian Wood had one of the more insane heat checks that I have ever seen. What was that? 2 games ago against Washington. I think he hit 7 threes in the fourth quarter alone. And he was just out there taking step back threes and just launching it up. But Christian Wood, high upside. He works well with FanDuel scoring as well. He can get blocks, he can get steals, which again are more heavily weighted on FanDuel. But let's go to center then. I'm curious for both your guys' take on the position as a whole, but strategy-wise too. The center's always been a position for me. I liked it more when we did not have multi-positional eligibility at center because we could kind of hone in what the common build was going to be and just flip it on its head with one position at the center position. And it kind of holds true, though, tonight, too, because Rudy Gobert is strictly center eligible. He's projected for 32% ownership. Joel Embiid, strictly center eligibility. He's projected for 25% ownership. So right there, we have 60% of ownership going to 2 strictly center guys that are high priced. Well, Gobert's not high price, mid tier and high price. So what I used to love to do at this position when there was not as much flexibility then, I'd like to find just a cheap guy, because now we're saving at the center position, and naturally we're building unique lineups with the rest of our lineups because we're spending up at other positions as opposed to center where everybody else is. I say that, and then I say there's not a whole lot of strictly center eligible guys that are very appealing that are cheap today. Jericho Sims is the guy that's not going to be a fun play, but he's the one guy, 3,700. If Mitchell Robinson's out, if Jericho Sims is starting, I think he's one of the guys, just from like a game theory, flipping the build on his head perspective, is I kind of like him at center. He's not a high upside guy, but it's more, again, you're shooting for 20 points, 20 to 30 points, and you're hoping that outperforms the other salary settings on the slate, and then you spend up elsewhere. With that said, I think center is a really strong position. So I'm interested to hear your take on the position as a whole. Are you eating Rudy Gobert chalk tonight, John?
So I think he's in play because Charlotte gives up a lot of rebounds. I think they give up second most rebounds in the league so far this season. I don't know if I'm super excited about Rudy Gobert, though, because I think Joel Embiid could have a monster game. Because Embiid's playing the Clippers. I wrote him up in the expert survey. I've got him tagged. He's going for the MVP. He's going for the scoring title. Clippers give up a ton of points in the paint. Like Joel Embiid might have the game you need to have at the center position. And so I actually prefer, I hadn't thought of Jericho Sims, but I think that's a good call. And I think it's an intriguing build, but I kind of prefer pay down at power forward position and then spend up at center and go for Embiid. So I'm going to look to be overweight Joel Embiid, but I probably will mix in Jericho Sims. But, if Mitch Rob's out, mix in some Sims at 3,700.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a projection standpoint, it's a no-brainer to save at other positions and spend that. But it's kind of just a game theory thing. Dre, your thoughts on the position as a whole?
Yeah, there's not a lot of options to go with, in my opinion. I have a very narrow pool with it, but I like Gobert, but Gobert has not been performing to his standards lately, and it's been really, really disappointing. So I'm not that excited about him. But as to echo what John was saying about Joel Embiid, he's just in a phenomenal spot. We saw what Nikola Jokic just did against his team pretty much all season. And it's like, what is Joel Embiid going to do? Especially like you said, when he's trying to go for all these things, the MVP scoring title, it just makes sense. It's a perfect storm for him. So I love the Joel Embiid play. I'm like, if I'm playing 159, I'm going to be probably like well over the field on him. And then I would mix it with a few other guys, like I said, mentioned before, like Bam, maybe Karl Anthony Towns, somewhat guys that can have somewhat close to the upside that Joel Embiid can possibly get to. Because if, say for instance, if he does put up 70, you're gonna need that to win pretty much in your lineup tonight. So like, I want someone that's going to be at least in my lineups that are at least other centers that are going to be somewhat close to that point, or have the same ceiling and upside in regards to the matchup that they're in, because I think that these guys can do it in pretty much almost any type of situation.
Yeah, good analysis. I do think that's probably the most likely scenario, is just you're going to need the raw points at center. And that's going to kind of be how the night finishes. But yeah, hey, that's going to do it here for the show. Again, this is going to happen every Friday. The FanDuel Friday Strategy Breakdown show. Bit of a tongue twister there. We're going to be carrying it over through baseball season as well. It's going to kind of switch out hosts here and there. But I know Dre and I are off next week. But again, every Friday we'll be doing this show. So if you have any sort of critiques, comments on what you want to hear on the show, we're happy for that feedback. Feel free to comment. But for John, Dre, and myself, thanks for tuning in.